Yes, people, welcome back to the 1894. I'm Hugh. I've got Dara here with me as always for this Dortmund versus City preview, the second leg of our Champions League quarterfinal. We're 2-1 up on the aggregate score. Dara, what are your thoughts going into it?
Yeah, we're coming off a sluggish performance against Leeds, but it was rotation central there. So I think if he can go with the same team he went with in the first leg, we should be fine. I can't see us running into any problems.
Yeah, there was obviously massive rotation. I think it was 6 changes against Leeds on Saturday. So I think it's only right we talk about our predicted starting 11. We're going to put the full predicted starting 11 we have on screen now for you to have a look at home. Give us your thoughts in the comments down below. Would you make any changes? Would you put anyone in, take anyone out, etc., etc.? Let us know. We'd love to know what you think. I want to talk about the defense first because that was a massive talking point for us in our review of the first leg. Diaz, who has been a phenomenon for City since coming to the club at the start of the season, had possibly his worst performance. I hate saying it against Dortmund last week. He was very below par. He looked a bit nervous, maybe a bit shaky, which is normal for a young man playing in possibly his biggest game he's ever had in his career. You know, we often forget how young he is because he looks like such a leader and he's got such good qualities. Tell me about your back four, based on that. He didn't play against Leeds in the weekend, Diaz, so he's probably a bit more rested, a well-deserved rest because he's played a crazy amount of football since coming. What do you think of defense-wise?
Honestly, I can't see how we can change it from the first leg. I mean, unless you want to put Zinchenko back in, but I think Walker was fine during the game. Diaz shouldn't be moved. He was rested for a reason on Saturday. I think it's to come straight back out. I can't see him going with Stones and Laporte anyway. But just talking about Stones, he's been man of the match the past 2 games for me. I can't see how they're going to how he'll be dropped. He's been brilliant lately, and if you're going to take him out now, she may as well not play him again. This is one of the biggest games of Pep's City career. I can't see why he's going to take out anyone who's on a good run of form.
Absolutely. And having watched Dortmund together a few times now, we obviously realised that their defence isn't the best. We possibly should have exposed them more times than we did in the first leg, but they do obviously rely on the fact that they're capable of scoring so many goals. And, there's always the potential for that with players like Haaland. How do you see that going in terms of preventing them scoring goals? Haaland's going to want to make a name for himself. He didn't score in the first leg. I think that was the first time he's not scored against a Champions League team in his whole career as a player, which is an absolutely staggering stat. And what kind of approach do you see Dortmund having coming into this one?
I mean, they're the ones chasing. They're going to have to go about it different than they went last time, instead of just trying to limit what they can. But we've seen how dangerous they are. They should have had a goal against us with Bellingham who got ruled out. Their pressing is brilliant, so they're going to do that from the off. So we have to definitely be awake. It can't be where we start off slow and then come into it. It'll have to be 90 minutes fully awake, fully ready to go for it. They have so many different places where goals can come from. Haaland is a provider and he's a scorer as well. So we're gonna have to try get Stones, put them in the back pocket, but there's so many different places these goals can come from because they've got so many talented players, really.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel Dortmund will look at it from a perspective where they've got nothing to lose. On paper, they're kind of written off because they don't have as much quality around the whole pitch as us. But from a City perspective, there's definitely a huge amount of pressure, not only because you're expected to win the tie, but because Pep has never got past this stage of the Champions League as the City manager. And we've kind of got one hand on that semi-final spot. But like I said, this tie is so wide open. We're under no illusions. Dortmund can't punish. And we've seen crazier things happen. We've lost to Lyon, we've lost to Liverpool, Spurs, Monaco, all these teams. So Dortmund will feel they're in with a right chance. If they get a goal early through someone like Haaland and his confidence gets boosted from the first 10, 15 minutes, it's going to be a really, really tough game. So our defense is going to be, really called upon to put in a big shift. But I want to talk about goals because that's been a bit of an issue for us with considering the amount of chances we're creating. Against Leeds in the weekend, we created something like 29, 30 chances or attempts, whatever you want to call them. And we struggled to put any of them to bed, really, bar obviously our one goal. Sterling has been in the firing line of the critics in recent weeks. He's scored 1 goal in his last 10 City appearances, which is quite poor for a player of his standard. So Foden started the first game on the left wing. He started the first leg for City, and I think he was quite good. He obviously breathes a huge amount of energy in his team. He's got a lot of quality, and he can score goals, and he got his goal. Which he probably deserved considering he missed a couple of chances. Talk to me about your attack and where you see goals coming from. Obviously, we didn't have De Bruyne, didn't play against Leeds. Gundo didn't play against Leeds. Mahrez, it was 6 changes, massive changes. And what are you thinking attack-wise?
Well, I mean, you can't start any of those first 3 that he played against Leeds because they're all dreadful. They may as well have not been there. But everything good that came from the Dortmund game was coming from the 4 boys up front, having Bernardo playing up that high, same with Kevin De Bruyne, he was playing up very high. I can't see how any of the three of them who played make a stake to play in this game. It's gonna have to, like, I wouldn't change a thing from that first Dortmund team. I think both of us said when it came out it was perfect. I was actually expecting more from it, but there shouldn't be any change in that team because of how good they were that night.
Yeah, for sure. And it's one I definitely agreed, and I always felt we had great squad depth for scoring goals. So many players who can score goals, but maybe I'm being a bit harsh. But that game against Leeds kind of reiterated the fact that we rely so heavily on players like De Bruyne, who I would imagine would play false nine on Wednesday, and Mars, of course, who we've been critical of in the past, but it kind of puts into perspective. Had he played against Leeds, there's a very good chance he would have scored because there was a lot of play, there was a lot of space out in the wide for players like Mars to cut in on their stronger left foot, and Foden had he started the game as well, would have been definitely a chance. So it kind of reiterated the fact that I was talking about, which is we rely so heavily on our midfield players, which is quite concerning when, you know, Sterling, who over his City career has scored a crazy amount of goals, for him to go through a rough patch like this, and it's created a bit of a drought when you don't have players like De Bruyne on the pitch. But talk to me about Sterling. What are your thoughts on that? It's because in recent years to leave a player like Sterling out of the starting 11 is almost unthinkable in a game like this. But now we're in a position whereby he's playing so poorly, I suppose, that you have to make a stake for Foden, don't you?
Sterling, we all know how good he is. We all know how good he can be, but I can't make any stake for him to start this game. Like, he has you said, one goal in his last 10 games. It's if he starts, I won't be angry because I know how good he is, but he's not in the form to be starting. And if you're putting him over someone like Foden, or even if he starts over someone like Mahrez, who's in the form that he is, it's just, I can't justify it in my mind.
Yeah, I think the exact same starting 11 as we had in the first leg is definitely feasible to go again on Wednesday. And because so many of them didn't play against Leeds, they've had, you know, a full week off, essentially more, 8 days off, because of, we've got that extra day rest over the other quarterfinal. But I want to talk about the way you think this whole game is going to go, because there's so many different avenues that you can explore with this. There's so many different possible scenarios. Like we already spoke about Dortmund being able to score so many goals, and you know we've got the pressure of trying to get through this stage for the first time. What are you thinking? How do you see the game going?
I mean, Dortmund are going to have to attack from the start. You know, they're the one chasing it, like I said. But I think we are definitely good enough to score. I don't know. I think it might be more of a when rather than an if. But I mean, we won't know how it's gonna go until we see how he sets up. There's a chance he goes and throws like a 5 back in the work. While I doubt it, but it's. As soon as if you ask me this now on Wednesday night after the team comes out, I can probably tell you how I think it's going to go, but it's just so up in the air at the minute.
Yeah, especially after that Leeds performance, it was a bit concerning with the lack of prolific scorers up front. I don't want to see Jesus play. I don't think he'll put enough chances to get away. And in a game like this, when you get a golden chance, you need to stick it away. So for me, going to this game, I think Dortmund have enough firepower with players like Royce and Haaland to score goals. So it's not going to be a 0-0 for City. It won't be a case of keeping a clean sheet. I think Dortmund will come out with nothing to lose, like I've already said. And they'll put us under serious pressure. And I think it's not an if, it's a when they do score. I think Darrow's already said that. So it's going to be a case where we will have to score, and I think it'll be more than once. So I think we'll get into score predictions now, because it's going to be an exciting one for score predictions, because I think this will be a high scoring game. I think there's going to be goals left, right, and centre. So let's get into it. Darrow, what are your score predictions?
So that's actually a tough one now, Press. You know what? I'm going to go opposite to you. You said it might be high scoring. I'm just going to go about 1-1.
1-1, you mad? You mad? Still 1-1.
1-1. They'll score. No, sorry. I think we'll score first. They'll get one back, and we'll be shitting ourselves for about 15, 20 minutes.
That's crazy. I really hope that's not the case. But I'm going to go with a really, from a neutral's perspective, an exciting game to watch. And I'm going to say a 3-2 City. I'm going to say 3-2 City. So 5-3 on aggregate is what I'm going to think the final score will be. We'll get 3 away goals and we'll sail through to the semi-final. And I've probably just tempted fate and knocked out of the competition. So big apologies.
We're going out now. Cheers. Cheers.
We're getting knocked out. It's going to be a fantastic game. Honestly, I'm really, really looking forward to it. And I said this already. I think this is Pep's biggest ever game as a City manager. You know, we essentially not, mathematically, but we have the league pretty close to wrapped up. We don't have that excess pressure we need. He's not making the face. He's not making the face. I don't think we're going to slip up any further in the Premier League. I fully believe that. We don't have that excess pressure from the domestic competition. We should really be focusing on this Champions League and trying to make a name for ourselves in this competition. It's about time we got through this, and I think Pep will not make any mistakes. He won't overthink it, and it'll just be a great spectacle for everyone. So I think we'll wrap the video up there. Thanks a million for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. We're still on the road to 200 subscribers, and we'll see you for a live watch along here on the channel. And of course, the Discord link is down below. I know Dara gets angry when I don't shout that out, so join that if you fancy it. See you Wednesday. Peace.